Hi, I'm Vishal. I'm a visual effects supervisor at ReDefine, and I was fortunate enough to be the visual effects supervisor on Fighter. This is ReDefine's Rewind, and we're going to take you through some of the sequences that we worked on for this film. Was the introduction of our protagonist, Hrithik, whose call sign is Patty. He is a bit of a maverick pilot in the film, and Inverted Run is supposed to be his first appearance in the film, so obviously it'd have to be grand, it'd have to be dramatic. It's also the same sequence in which we introduced Deepika, who is an exceptional helicopter pilot in her own right. We didn't have any Sukhois to fly, so first we started with creating all our digital environments, where we could get away with matte paintings. We did that. The planes were an exceptionally difficult task for this particular project. It was with the plane comes, heat exhaust, it comes contrails, there come the wind effect that it causes. These are, supersonic planes. They fly at twice the speed of sound sometimes, and that causes its own kind of environmental effects when it flies. So essentially, the sequence is he radios his commanding officer and says that I want to come in doing a low inverted run on top of the runway, and they give him permission to do that. So he comes and he flies really low, inverted, upside down. We built quite an interesting sequence around that. That was essentially Inverted Run for us. So another one of our big sequences in the film, and the whole idea behind Training Day was to introduce the world of flying. So essentially the premise behind Training Day was that these guys are sent out on a mission. Rocky, who's Anil Kapoor in the film, is their commanding officer. There's another officer who's flying with him, and basically it's Hrithik in one of the Sukhois and his colleague in another one of the Sukhois, and they're supposed to keep guard over two helicopters which are paradropping some soldiers into a field. And Rocky, that is Anil Kapoor, is supposed to come and distract them and try and be the sort of distracting factor so that the mission is not successful like it's supposed to be a training mission. The actors that you see inside the planes are actually filmed in a studio in Mumbai. Deepika is in the helicopter. She's this commando slithering down, so she's probably hovering about 25-30 feet off the ground, and Hrithik and his colleague are supposed to keep a watch over it and make sure that there's no sort of possibility of an attack on them from an external entity. And Anil Kapoor is supposed to be the external entity that comes and disturbs the mission. And then Hrithik eventually catches up with him, does one maverick move. He flies, does a cobra maneuver and flies right on top of his plane, lands up behind him, and he has Anil Kapoor in his target. And he feels like he's been successful in the mission, but actually, the mission was to protect these guys who were in the helicopters and not try and attack the enemy. It was a lovely sequence to work on. It was complicated. Getting the speeds of the planes right, making sure that they don't look like toys that are flying around. So we pre-visualized the whole sequence, to get the action right. And after that, it was a matter of filming the right components for it, filming the actors on a green screen, making sure that the lighting matches, making sure the lensing matches, and put them into a sort of a digital environment. One of our supervisors in Budapest, he was responsible for bringing this sequence to life. I think ultimately it is one of my favorite sequences in the film. This sequence was a combination of a completely digital environment. The director was interested in seeing this action where it actually happened, or purportedly happened in the film. It was in the Nubra Valley, which is essentially a dry desert. It's a sight to behold. If any of you guys have been there, it's quite breathtaking. You have these beautiful tall mountains, snow-capped peaks in the back, and just like this lovely, gorgeous landscape. And the whole action was meant to be there. Also, it's a sensitive area as far as the Indian Army is concerned. It's right by the border. We just built the whole environment in CG. It turned out really quite well. We pre-visualized it, made sure that everybody's okay with the action points, with focus being on things like speed, physics, emotion, all of that. It is a heartbreaking sequence. It's a sequence in which Hrithik, he comes out feeling like he's responsible for letting down one of his colleagues. There's a Pakistani contingent of F-16s that laser attack on Indian soil. It was meant to be this, the swift retort of our soldiers, of our Air Force pilots, going back at them. There were two areas, one was nice and green and a sort of mountainous terrain, which we filmed the environments for in Switzerland, and the other was Nubra Valley, which was, like I said, impossible to film. So we just had to create it digitally. All of this also came with, because it is an action sequence, all of this came with, tons of effects like explosions and flares coming out of the planes, contrails, wind effects, ground explosions, and that's when they come and attack the Indian military base, and our guys go after them. There was Swift Retort, another great sequence in the film, very long, but nice. Very, very ambitious sequence. There is an aerial action, there is a rescue mission which is happening on the ground, where we are rescuing some of our soldiers. There is helicopters involved, there are fighter jets, there are the Pakistani F-16s. So there's a lot going on. I think it was one of the sequences that we filmed first in the film, the ground action. We filmed it in two or three different parts. There are two guys. There's Deepika in one of the helicopters. There's Sukhi, a character that plays Sukhi. They're trying to land in enemy territory to rescue our pilots who've actually been captured in a rogue mission. And also the antagonist is there. And of course, Hrithik is in one of the Sukhois who's providing aerial support. The other antagonist is Red Nose. Hrithik obviously takes him down in a beautiful aerial piece, part of which was filmed over a lake in Switzerland. Ultimately, in a dramatic moment, these planes fly really close to each other. Hrithik crashes his Sukhoi into the F-16, and that's the end of Red Nose. And then after that, we have a hand fight and a chase on a jeep that obviously culminates into this exhilarating climax, essentially. Majority of our work in this was obviously explosions, the helicopters, the planes, a lot of the ground action like gunfire, bullets, and obviously making it look like it wasn't in Mumbai. First of all, we made it look like it was in a snowy valley. Our matte painters were very good at dealing with it. I remember working with one of our CG supervisors, Nilesh, from the Mumbai team, who did a fab job bringing all of this together, because it was a very, very tight deadline, and when a project's got to release, it's just got to release. So we had to fit everything we could into that timeline and make it look as good as we possibly could.